Okay, guys, so welcome to Treehouse Meeting number 21. So I hope everyone's 2021 is starting okay this time around and your migration numbers are getting a bit lower. Um, so obviously today we are going to have a presentation from Barry and Laura, which sounds pretty exciting and interesting. So I look forward to that. But just before we get into that, I just want to run through a little update from Treeple. So I was sent like a mock-up of a new feature they're rolling out, and they just wanted some feedback. So opportunity for anyone to give feedback there. And this feature kind of ties in with the presentation today a little bit too. So I'll share my screen and we can have a look at that. Okay, can everyone see my screen there? It's a mock-up of the Treeple portal. Yep. Okay, so this new feature, I'll just go back. What are they calling it? Emergency settings. So the presentation today is all about like having a success partner or someone to sort of, I guess, fall back on or have your back. And so this feature Treeple is rolling out is kind of along those lines where you can set up these emergency settings or a contact person, basically someone who can take over your account in any event that may occur, or sort of like just a secondary fallback admin, basically. So they're looking at introducing this emergency settings and basically you can enter in like this backup admin. So they're kind of after some feedback on how you guys might think that needs to be implemented, or what settings or what sort of privileges you give this user. Do they have access to everything, or is it some sort of limited thing? When does their account kick in? How do you activate it? That kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know if anyone has anything to say on that, particularly you guys, Barry and Laura, which might be along the lines of what you're talking about today. So yeah, just opening the floor. If anyone thinks this is a good idea, think they might use it, or have any sort of thoughts and feedback on it for the team.
What's the options for?
Yeah, so it's kind of open at the moment, I think. So they're looking for feedback. I guess I sort of thinking like, what does this person actually have access to? Maybe like how deep of a privileges, I guess. Like maybe it's where you assign an admin role, like, and you give them permissions or something like that. But I don't know what. Obviously there would be some sort of options or controls that you might put in place for this kind of user. So it's really open to what you guys think.
So, do we know anything about the differences between having this emergency person, like user admin?
No, not really at this stage. I'm assuming it's basically the same, but yeah, I mean that's open to discussion and feedback, I guess. So from what I gather, it's like in the event that maybe the partner, the end user can't contact the partner anymore, they've gone AWOL, or Treeple can't get in contact with the main partner, this might kick in. So I assume they'd have to have access to all the sites and the portal.
Hey, Adam, we can give you during the presentation. We'll talk about the hit by the bus scenario.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, okay. Yes, the Hope's just said that, yes, particularly for like one-man operations, if you probably, it's a good idea to have that sort of fallback.
And I think maybe a title would be good right there as an option. In other words, an option one would be I don't want to call it a partner, but yes, this is my number one choice, or versus a developer might be a second option, or something that I think that we do need to put a title as to what level they would play, whether they're the executor, whether they are just our emergency contact. That might be as simple as that. This is my emergency contact, versus they would know nothing about development. Maybe they do know about development, maybe they don't. But
yeah, for me, for example, my brother-in-law, he's a big wig in a company that does software. He's head of pre-sales. He knows this stuff, and he's in my will separately as an executor for my business. But he's been disconnected from it for so long, he can come in, but he's going to pick up the phone and call Laura because he doesn't know where my sites are. He doesn't know my customers, things like that. Well, we can get into that further.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, like a title and even maybe just a description to say what this person is, what their role is, what their skills are, because if they're handing this over to the end user, the client, it's just going to be like,
are they a triple partner? Yeah, they could be a triple partner. They might not be a triple partner. Do they even understand anything about what's going on, right? What level of, knowledge do they have?
Maybe we just need a general description about what they're there for, like an open text field, like just a multi-line text field, just so that you can obviously having knowledge about what sort of whether they're a developer or just someone to carry out your wishes or whatever.
You could put a checkbox in there that says is triple partner, right? Just check it and just make sure that if the person that you add use their triple email address, so then triple will know, they're already a partner, so they have a clue, right? In Laura's case with me, vice versa,
Yeah, good point. Yeah, they're good ideas.
I think if you've ever been involved in a tri-tech recovery, I had someone that passed away, and it's quite difficult to get access to things sometimes because nobody knows. So yeah, good idea.
Yeah, I imagine it would be quite challenging. Yeah. All right, some good feedback there. I'm sure once we dive into the presentation, some more ideas might pop out from that as well. So I will stop sharing. Okay. All right, and that's pretty much all from my end. So if Barry and Laura, you guys are ready, then we can get started.
Cool. I'm going to start. Laura and I are going to kind of go back and forth here. I found out that I can't see my slide notes, so without you seeing them, I can't figure that out. Maybe I'm not technically savvy enough with Google Sheets, but we'll get it. Let me share my screen, and
this is real casual, so yes, yeah. I know Barry won't forget his notes whatsoever.
And we will have, Q&A at the end. And hopefully, if you have any questions. So let me go in presentation mode. And that's not where I wanted to. There I go. Again, things popping around. Here we go. I'm going to hide all your faces. So how to find success with success partners. You saw the email. You're all here because of Treehouse. The first 3 bullets were in the email. We just wanted to have those in. We feel that our success partnership is 100x better than accountability partners. Everybody knows what those are, I hope. And then we want to talk about what we've built, how we've supported each other in our niche-based markets, and how we can reduce. We've made more money. We've saved time. We've reduced stress. But first, we want to go into, a lot of you know us, some don't, I'm guessing, who we are, how we met, when did we decide to become accountability partners, how long has it been, how long have we been accountability partners, and how often do we meet? And so everybody that was a BC partner, which I assume most of you have been, our accountability partnership started back probably within a month of BC blowing up. We were also in UGurus. I think we just kind of knew we were in there together, but that's how we met, and we got started with a small group trying to figure out, okay, what platform we're going to move to, right? And I just covered my notes up here. Hang on a minute. So we just started doing that, and we decided, hey, this is working. We got a lot of the similar interests, things like that. I'll answer I'm just going to go through these bullets. Laura, I think it's April 26th, a month after BC blew up. So it's been 3 years for us. and then we'll get into how long we've met and stuff. Let me, like I said, so we're going to talk about success partnership today, but you have to really start with accountability. Okay. And that's where we started. You can't just jump right into what we're doing without having an understanding of if you can work together and things like that. So what is accountability? It's a noun, the fact or condition of being accountable and responsible. So what is an accountability partner, you ask? Somebody that can talk better than me. Help you identify exactly what you want to accomplish in precise detail, help you verify the steps you need to take in order to achieve your goal. Make sure you stay on track, and call BS if you need it. And then people know Stephen Covey, accountability breeds responsibility. Laura, I'll let you start with this one.
But the big thing is we had been part of different accountability groups. And of course, that's been encouraged amongst many leadership groups that we have been part of. But the one thing, these are 8 steps that we found that have really worked. And one is show up. We do have, and we'll show you an example of what we use and used to use for our daily management of our times. We want to go ahead and make them short and sweet and to the point. So show up, we want to make sure that that's the biggest key. Document, so we're holding each other accountable. And that really helps so we know whether we're making progress, we're moving that one thing forward, or whether we're not. And to commit, we want to go ahead and make sure that we mark it done or not done, as well as we threw in a fun thing that you'll see here in a moment that's made up an excuse. So we'll call out, like Barry was saying about the BS, we'll call each other out as if we've cleaned the desk or did something that we did not move any rocks forward or accomplish any goals. But we also discuss our progress, and we talk about why we're doing certain things to move forward. And that's, again, another thing that we'll call BS, because Barry has a very tight niche. I have a very nice, very tight niche. But we'll find out that if we get that call and it excites us, that we realize not quite in our niche, that we have to say no. So we're there to discuss it and work through that. The other thing is help. Definitely help each other out. And that, hopefully you'll start seeing how that plays out, because we don't have to start from square one on every single task. It's nice that if Barry's working on something and I see how it would be relevant in my business, in my niche, then we're already a few steps forward, and vice versa. So that really helps. Transparency is huge. We definitely want to provide honest feedback. Barry would probably confess, as I would, that this morning he called me out on something and I called him out on something, because we can see where our goals have been set. And there's no reason not to be transparent to say, okay, are we doing that to get us where we want to go? Consistency. Every morning at 8 a.m., I'm saying hello to Barry. And I'm the one that engages at 8 in the morning because of my situation. You know, I have kids, we have a farm, I'm busy with chores at that hour. So if Barry was trying to contact me, he might be frustrated, but I make sure that I get a hold of him so it's consistent, short, sweet, to the point, but we know what we are going to do that day. And you don't feel so lonely. And it makes you feel like someone, you know, I work in my office alone. Barry works in his office alone, as most of you guys may. So being consistent, that we just have someone to know what our plans are, gets us to move forward. And we respect each other. It definitely does help that we respect each other's work. We respect each other's, our goals, our end game. So that does help with those tips. Go ahead. I'll let you carry on, Barry, if you feel
take a breath, I think. Yeah. So one of the things that the biggest reason that we want to, biggest thing we want to convey to everybody is, you know, both Laura and I have been in business over 23 years, 24 for me. And I've worked in this little 8x8 office, and for years it was just me. I had a developer I worked with now and then. I had another person did content. But when we started doing this accountability, and it was something that was suggested in UGurus, we really, it was like if you're in an office and there's especially with Zoom, right? You have a cubicle, right? You can stand up and, hey, what do you think about this or whatever? It's really nice. Before I never had that. So let me switch to this one here. So with our experience, what has worked, if it's a large issue or task that you'd like to tackle together, set a fixed date and time to focus on that issue or tasks that get you closer to your goals. If your discussions progress further than just accountability, run with it and make the best of the relationship. And remember, if it's not working, know when to call it quits, adjust as needed, and find another partner, but don't quit. So what we're getting at here too with accountability is, there's all of us have people around the world that we know. There's some people we talk with all the time. And you may just talk to them. Well, maybe there's an opportunity to do accountability with them. We know a number of our business associates and now really good friends that we have a couple that they meet every afternoon for 2 hours. We have another group that does a couple that does, partners that do what we do, even at a higher rate. Laura, you can explain this because you mentioned it.
Well, the one thing that, as Barry's mentioning, we're just touching the ground on accountability, and we're going to up the game when we talk about the success partnerships. But this is one way that we started with tracking our accountability was just having a simple Google sheet that either one of us could have open. If I was doing chores, Barry would fill it out for me and vice versa. But then it gave us a way to track as to how far we've come. But as Barry was mentioning, different people that, both of us had different accountability partners along the way. And sometimes it was just once a week or once every 2 weeks that we met. So we understand that this daily system may not be right for everyone. Just doing a quick stand up once a week or having, set times, but find out what works best for you. And then knowing if the accountability is working well, and if you are getting things accomplished, then it might be a good time to go ahead and take it to the next level.
Yeah, and as you notice, these have June 9th, 2019 dates on this. We carried that on, I think, into 2020 a little bit, but with COVID and stuff and not doing a lot, we end up hopping on Zoom a lot. And so we don't really need to keep track of it as much. So other ways to work with accountability partner is daily. Like Laura said, we do weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or even a group where you get together, once a week and talk through issues and things like that. Or also do work sessions. That's what we've done a lot through COVID is we'll both have a time block where we're not doing anything and we'll get on and we'll set a 40-minute timer. We'll talk about what we're going to work on, and it keeps us very focused. We don't get sidetracked on Facebook. We don't get sidetracked over here, bouncing all over the place. We have something to get done. When the timer goes off, we discuss how we did and what issues we ran into and things like that. Laura, you want to take this one or?
Well, it has helped us tremendously because, of course, something bad happened, which now we get this great thing called Tree Pool and this new Treehouse. But that's the moral support was tremendous. And like Barry said, we started with it was a sizable group, maybe 5, 6, 7 of us that would get together. But knowing that the moral support was there helped move us forward, help us found a great solution with Treepool. It kept us focused on the task at hand. We kind of joke saying no whining, no wallowing. It's time to focus and move on. So we do treat it as, if there is a time and a place that we have an issue to work through, like Barry mentioned earlier, we will set a time for that. But what happens is we usually are much more focused and we do get things accomplished. And it really does help us up our game.
Yeah, so these are just points of, helping open up, provides a major moral support, keeps us focused, and helps get things accomplished. So let's amp this up, the idea. So we want to talk about success partners. Now, this little window from Zoom always gets in my way. So success partners about excitement, energy, and movement, not perfection. Success partners measure the gain and the movement made toward big dreams, not the gap of what they aren't doing good enough. So Benjamin Hardy, when we were researching, doing this presentation for you gurus, I was just doing some research. I found this article where this quote was in, and Benjamin Hardy talked about the difference between a success partner and accountability partner, and mentioned, a lot of times accountability is like, oh, gee, okay, Laura, I'm going to get this done today. And she tells me what she's going to get done. And you kind of work. Sometimes it's like, oh, do I really need to work on that? Or, oh, yes, I got to work on it because I'm being held accountable. So as we read the article, which there's a link at the end of this, you'll be very interested in it. We learned that we're already doing a lot of the things he talked about in the article. And what we were doing is we took it to a higher level just by accident, really. I don't know if it was myself or Laura, but it's like, hey, I got this proposal. Can you take a look at it? I'm just not quite sure about the numbers. Am I missing something? So what we did was we would look at each other's stuff, and then it went from there. And Laura, if you want to go through this list, we can, talk about what we're working on there.
I mean, we didn't do anything fancy about bringing these in or anything like that, but I'll give you the little example. What Barry does with his triple accounts, I will ask him about, and then all of a sudden my triple accounts are that much stronger. My proposals will be stronger and Barry's proposal will be stronger. So we're not starting everything from scratch. And again, completely separate businesses, completely separate niches. His is automotive, mine's agricultural. So, but what we found is our personas and our funnels, our steps, our playbooks, all can be so similar that we can use the same content writer to write it, break it into our industries. There's no overlap, but we're able to save money because our content writer had to do the research one time and make it so it's standalone for our industries. We go to our graphic designer. He then does our graphics that we can just tweak for our industries. But that's not something I'm starting from scratch, nor Barry's starting from scratch. And we know we can jump in. And we can also talk about, was it engaging for your audience? How do we tweak it? Same with mine. So we're finding out our websites are better, our materials are better, our time is better served, and we're sharing team now. So I don't even have, when I mentioned about videos, Barry's like, I have a guy. Great. So we will put our processes very, very close, or sometimes 100% the same, so that anybody that comes onto our teams, I'm paying them separate, Barry's paying they're separate. But what's happening is they do not have to learn two different methods. It is all processed out to streamline. So that's why it gets to be very exciting about our collaborations, everything falls into place quicker because I'm not having to vet somebody to see if they're going to be understanding what I need accomplished. It just all seems to play out very well.
Yeah, we took, and you'll notice on here that, higher project numbers, site and marketing maximizer programs. That is just to give you an understanding too, is Laura had this thing called Marketing Maximizer. She kind of had it on the shelf. She pulled it out one day. She says, check this out. I have this thing. I have a customer I want to sell it to. What do you think? And we've always kind of in the last few years known that it's better to have plans and packages to sell than just hourly, right? So we looked at her Marketing Maximizer and we revamped. We went through the whole thing, top to bottom, figured out what's going to be in. We have two Marketing Maximizer programs now. One's called Limited, one's called Pro. They're exactly the same. We both sell them. Laura started selling them before I did, before we even had it fully baked. And we don't really sell hourly work anymore other than some site updates here and there. And what was really good is, like Laura said, processes are the same. We have shared all our whole team, our virtual team. So we both have some different developers that work for us, but we have a number of VAs that share our work. They're in both our TeamWorks. We have a shared drive that's kind of like the scroll hole right now, but we're able to save money by, like Laura said, with the blog posts, but also collaborating on how we're going to talk to the customer, how we're going to bring something to customer, how we're going to say, whoa, no, you're putting way too much time into that. If they want that, they need to buy more of the program or whatever, and bounce ideas off each other. One thing in here, I don't know if anybody's seen this book. This is more for a bigger corporation, but we use part of it's called Traction by Gino Wickman, which is part of EOS. And it says joint L10 meetings. The level 10 meeting is what it's called if people don't know what that is. And a lot of Uyghurs people do it, and a lot of other businesses do it. And what it is it's a very focused meeting, and we decided to combine it together. And our shared ops manager, we don't really consider her a VA anymore because she's really high level, runs the meeting and keeps us very focused. We have an issues list. We have shared things we need to discuss, IDS it's called, and it works out really well. And even if I'm IDSing something with Natasha, Laura can hop in and go, well, wait a minute, what about this? And a lot of times it's just I'm listening or she's listening, and it crosses over. And then combined rocks, that's part of EOS as well. That's just a quarterly thing where you select 1 to 3 key things you're going to focus on in your business. A lot of times we both have 3, and one of them is a shared one we're working at together, where it's a site upgrade or it's a program upgrade or something like that. Laura, you want to touch base on the vacation and support? The big thing is why Alex kind of got us into talking to Adam about this.
This is well, we were talking about the fact that, again, we were all individuals. My husband would be kind of questioning as to if I got hit by a bus, what he would do. Barry has some stuff in place, but it's that comfort level to know somebody else is out there that would be able to do whatever's necessary to cover if something would happen. More realistically is the vacation mode. We don't have to worry too much about vacations as much, I should say, because when Barry was in Ireland, I was able to be there to support any questions that came up that his team wasn't able to answer. I jumped in and handled that. Same with when I'm on vacation now. Barry's able to handle if anything comes up that my direct team's not able. So there's a backup. The other thing is, like Barry mentioned, is having somebody in the room with discovery meetings or on these bigger client meetings. It shows them that you have a bigger team, and it's just nice to support each other. So I'll show up when Barry needs me on his discovery calls and kind of have that extra set of ears to listen. I'll be putting some things in chat going, don't forget to ask, or, after the meeting, we can kind of collaborate. Vice versa, he'll show up on mine. So that really is helpful. And just as he said, Marketing Maximizer was mine. It sat here for a long time, and I just didn't have it pulled together enough to actually present it to a client in a way that I'd be proud of. And because as success partners, we worked through it, then I was able to be off and running. And so, like Barry said, he's now also doing that. I rolled out the Site Maximizer. It's going to work out great for Barry as well. And so, again, we're not having to do things differently. I also want to point out, though, I still realize that I have to do what's right for my business, and Barry still has to do what's right for his business. So he does a lot with Instagram. So I at least have that conversation in head or near me. But I know that I don't have to do Instagram. That's not going to hit my persona yet. So it's okay to still do stuff separately. And I have to remind myself that I don't have to put that on a to-do list yet. I can decide later.
Yeah, I'm the one that comes and say, hey, what about this? And Laura's like, no. You can go do that if you want. I'm not ready to do that yet. So, and we talk through, and a lot of times she brings me back down to earth, gets my feet on the ground, and go, yeah, maybe not so much. So let's see, Laura, let me, any question I want to ask, is there any question about any of the items on this that you guys have? Okay. Let's see. I got to move my thing. So final notes, research studies have shown that publicly committing to goals to someone gives you at least 65% chance of completing them. However, having a specific accountability partner increases your chance to 95%. By adding an accountability partner in your life, you simply increase your odds of success. You don't want to lie to someone you respect. So when you tell them you're going to show up this week, you're more likely to do so. We'll share this deck out, PDF. There's some links in here. This is if you can actually, this is a podcast that we're on with Brent Weaver in December talking about our success partnership, and a couple other documents. This, I think this is the one that I talked about that we found, but our contact information's at the end here. If you want to contact us, most people know where we are. I think one thing I wanted to mention about the hit by a bus scenario, and more just an experience about vacations and things like that. Laura hadn't been on a vacation in a while where she could just unplug, and we had been working together for a while. And so she did that, right? And she had a team member that she had before we did Success Partnership, and I started working with her as well. And one day out of the blue, she slacks me and goes, I got this client of Laura's. They need another set of business cards. I have no clue where Laura got them from. And I go, oh, you need to call Tracy, because I know who did them, just because Laura and I just happened to have a conversation about that, right? And they got them taken care of. So it's just little things like that can make a difference. But I think one thing I wanted to mention too is one thing we saw in YouGurus was that there was a lot of partners that were really kicking ass, right? They're really doing a great job. I grew up with a dad that said, don't ever have a partner. It's the worst thing you can do, a business partner. And I think Laura felt the same way. So we've gotten as close as you can without merging businesses, right? And sharing money and all that lawyer crap, all the stuff that gets icky. And we're able to do it without having that. And it's freaking awesome. So, and no chats or anything. So any questions from anybody? Any thoughts?
Yeah, one of my questions was about like the legal sort of sides of things, and you just mentioned that then. So like you don't have any like contracts and things like that you draw up, you don't need that sort of thing, or do you?
No, nothing right now. And, there's people out there probably say, wow, that's probably a mistake, but,
But actually everything we share is out front. I mean, because any of my financials and stuff is in the background. It's not as though, Barry has access to banking or whatever like that. That is something that my husband can handle, and with Barry's. So anything that we're putting out is out publicly. So it would be just like you guys seeing Barry's presentation or slide deck, and you guys borrowing it and everything. So at this point, there's really, like Barry said, there's no overlap. It's just very parallel businesses.
Yeah, I think
we have our own contract with our help. We have our contracts. We have our own lawyers, and meaning so when we hire someone, they have to sign separate contracts with each of us.
Exactly. So, and we've worked through those as well. We have one we have to put together this week to get out to a VA we're going to hire jointly. But one step that we went a little farther recently was because in the last, 2 years ago, I think we went to G Suites. We both moved over to G Suites. We started building a shared drive. Well, the shared drive is on my system, and I feel there's a ton of stuff in there that's Laura's that we share together, things that industry training, all sorts of things that we're using in the business that we don't need to have 2 copies of it, right? So what I did recently is I created an account, a new email account for Laura. She has full admin access. That goes by along with the hit by a bus thing. 2 things. I don't want her to lose access if something happens to me. And I also want her to be very easily be able to hop into everything if my brother-in-law says, hey, help. Okay. My wife has Laura's phone number if she needs, but there is some question. There's a question here. Do you feel you need to be close regionally, or does that matter? E.g., can agency in Canada have a partner in California? Absolutely. So, obviously, let me go back to Ursha and I. Everybody knows Ursha. Her and I did Agency Tribe for quite a few years. It still sits there. We backed off and we're focusing on our business, but we made that work. It wasn't it wasn't a success partnership. It was just, we teamed up to take BC Sandpile and keep it moving forward, but we made it work. Now, as far as Canada and California, our ops manager lives in Toronto, Canada. So, and she's on the East Coast. So all of us are on the East Coast of the U.S., which does help. We don't have any problems with that, but we have our content managers in Ireland, and we have a couple business associates. One's in Texas and one's in California. We chat with every once in a while. So you got to deal with the time difference. But as far as success partners, I don't think that's a hurdle. Doing work sessions like we do, if you're in the US and your success partners in Australia, that kind of could be a little bit of an issue. But one thing too to keep in mind, Laura and I, our business are, like Laura said, are very parallel, but our niches aren't the same, but our people in our niches are very similar. Laura and I have a lot of shared values. So there's a lot of things that align, but I'm not saying that you have to have that. I mean, you don't even have to. You can have a success partner that's not even the same industry with you. It's somebody that knows business that you can collaborate with. I mean, it works better if they're in the same, an agency owner like we are, because you get more out of it that way. But I don't see that as a major hurdle. I mean, I think there's people out there. I've had thoughts for putting some of this stuff out to, if you're accountants, or if you're whatever, right, whatever your business is, you can have somebody to bounce ideas off of, put together programs. I'll tell you what, Marketing Maximizer has been huge for us. Creating a program together has been, financially and just very stimulating too, as far as, I wake up on Friday and go, where the heck did the week go? But anybody else have any?
I will mention an incident where it didn't work because we had two agencies come and say, hey, we would really like to do similar things. But one was branding and one was supposed to be branding, but we found out later their communication was off. So even though you would have thought these are two parallel business, two different industry, it just didn't seem to mesh for them. So she had to shift to another success partnership that worked better. The other instance would be I want to stay with no employees and only contractors, where Barry and I have been in groups where there's the owner and they're building a team. And that too, we would not be good. I would not pair up with them well, because again, their daily rocks, what they would want to move forward with, would be so much different. Where when we're talking about a funnel, when we're talking about our blog articles, when we're talking about this, it works out very, very well that Barry and I are, again, our personas that we're addressing, we can utilize a lot of the same material and we just tweak it to speak to our clients. So that works out very, very well.
Yeah, there's a few blog articles that we've done that were specifically, Laura couldn't use mine or I couldn't use her, but that doesn't happen very often. Most of our blogs and stuff like that are industry things, right? Helpful, SEO, mobile ready, all that kind of stuff. We just actually finished, it took us over 6 months to do. We did research, industry research on our niches, right? So we had a criteria of what to look at. Our team looked at it for automotive and also looked at it for agricultural. And we just finished up Lead Magnet with a lot of numbers and things like that. And really, I just finished the deck today for mine, copied it to Laura. All we got to do is change out the numbers and some text and some automotive related stuff, and we're off to the races, right? Some graphics. So it's really been huge in that respect. We also had another friend of ours come to us and said, hey, we're thinking about doing what you guys are doing. And, just ask us lots of questions and how we make it work and things like that. And they actually have they're kicking butt. One person was changing their niche, so what they did was they actually collaborated together on the other person's projects, and share. Actually, I think they might share revenue. Lauren, I don't. Other than there's some things that I do that she doesn't want to get involved with, but she does sell to her customers as part of Marketing Maximizer, so we support her there, and that's really the only place where I've ever sent Laura an invoice.
Yeah.
But it's worked out really well.
And I will also mention that the market research that Barry just came up, that was, again, somebody else in our accountability group said, hey, he trained up somebody. Okay, great. So Barry and I wanted to run with it. We trained one person on our team and got both industries done. That was huge because it was very efficient for her to crank through all of it because she did it for one industry and then the next. It wasn't as though I had to go back to my team going, okay, let's break this down. How can we get the most out of it? So again, the graphics guy, he was mine. He's able to do the graphics for both. It's just a nice way to complement. And again, knowing that with the backside of our website, Barry's very familiar with them. So if I say, hey, what about this? We're able to jump in as needed for our own websites.
Yeah, we have a couple documents where we share login information, or we've set up each other as admins. So I'm an admin on Teamwork for Laura. She's an admin on my Teamwork. She has access to a lot of my shared drives just to have access to them. Same with her stuff. And also, for example, as you noticed, Laura froze a little bit right there. Well, over the weekend, I did a triple migration for her because I got super fast things. So I did the migration for her, and it worked out really well. With her internet, sometimes thanks to AT&T, it would have took 3 days. So I did it probably took 8 hours, right? So things like that are huge too. And I've actually gone into hers and replied to support or asked a question of support as well.
And long story short, we're here and happy to help anyone that might have questions, or, hopefully you guys can reach out to industry agency owners that you're like, it would be a good fit. But if you have any questions, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, we'd be happy to hop on a Zoom or whatever, a quick Zoom to go over some stuff if anybody's interested.
Well, thanks, Scott, for asking about Marketing Maximizer. The long and the short of it is we want to be very consistent with what we offer. It used to be we build a website and walk away, like a lot of agencies have done. And now what we do is step forward to say the website's just going to be the start of it. So that's the site maximizer, really streamlining that. And then what we do is look at their digital footprint and be very clear, concise, and organized as their message going forward. So our clients, like a lot of them were trained, is put up a website and leave it, where we now meet with them once a month, have set projects that we do with them, and actually kind of work backwards. So we'll have their social media and we'll have everything, their digital footprint wise, based on a blog article that we write with our content writers. So now we repurpose their content throughout, and therefore they stay focused on one thing. So that's where the Marketing Maximizer comes in. When they're in pro, we of course have more time and more effort dedicated to them. And it works out great that they see when they were meeting face to face with people, but so they would go to a trade show, get eyeballs on them. Now, if the person found them on Facebook, the message was the same as their website, as the same as on LinkedIn, and it was carried throughout. So that's where the Marketing Maximizer is. If they're only doing limited, then we just pull back and they have one thing that we focus on a month. So we get the longevity out of the client. It's wonderful. We have a huge partnership with them that they see the impact on what they're doing.
Yeah, the big thing with that too is we're selling a program. We're not selling X number of hours. And there hasn't been a single customer that said, so how many hours do you work in Marketing Maximizer Limited versus Pro or whatever? That's never come up. The big thing is the monthly meetings, because we really dig into what's happening in their business and can make recommendations on how we can help them. And we look at things from the outside, right, looking in instead of from the inside looking out. So there's a lot of things we can point out. I mean, I had a client in a meeting yesterday that said, we're not getting clients to take and sign on to our, they sell software for automotive industry. And I said, what do you send them when you first sign up? Oh, this 6-page long email. It's like, nobody's going to read that. So we're working on trying to, put them in an automation where it drips it out when a new customer signs up. So things like that. So, there's something else I was going to say about that, but the big thing is a program. If anybody is just still selling single one-off projects or just hourly, look at developing some kind of either web development program or a marketing program or something you can, get the reoccurring. And our goal is to bring them into Marketing Maximizer, wow them, and then keep them in it for as long as they are getting value out of it. But that could be a whole different session here, Adam. So if anybody have any other questions for us?
Yeah, that sounds awesome. But going back to like the success partners and that, you guys mentioned like that it almost happened automatically for you guys because you're in, you gurus together, and it sort of grew out of that. But for someone looking to start this now, I would imagine it's quite difficult to try and find, especially if you work for yourself and you're isolated. You've really got to be in those groups and things to discover someone to work with. Do you have any sort of tips or ideas on how someone might get started?
Yeah, I do. And then I'm sure Laura will have some ideas too. So just to be clear, we were in UGers together, but we talked to each other once. I went back through all our emails and all our Facebook message, and we just connected once before that. And then Barbara Canaro, her, she brought about 5 of us together when BC blew up, and we started had a little Facebook Messenger group where we go back. And then, if you all remember, Barbara, and then I think I did one, somebody else did one, where we brought in vendors and talked to them. Well, during that whole process, we were chatting, and just Laura and I think the big thing about accountability, but more success partner thing, is you really have to enjoy being with a person. You have to have shared values for sure. And you have to, enjoy working with them. And, we just hit it off. It was very interesting how we just hit it off. Said, let's just do accountability. Okay. What do you want to just do a, 15-minute call 4 days a week? We started doing it 4 days a week. Then suddenly it's like, Laura's just calling me on Wednesday. Says, we're not supposed to do this today. It just worked. Now, with that said, we were BC partners too, but we didn't connect there either. It was really, by coincidence. But being in groups like Agency Tribe, we're looking at possibly, doing more with that in the future. But any group that you can get in, like this one right here, right? Or if you're in another group like Uyghurs, there's lots of groups out there like Uyghurs. So if you find somebody you talk to in the industry on a regular basis, maybe talk to them a little more and say, hey, you want to try accountability? That's where we started. You got to start there.
Yes, I was going to say, even with this chat here today, people could put up what their industry is and if they'd be interested. And again, if it's just something that I don't know too much about cars, Barry will tell you that. So I don't think it's that much that you want to find a niche that would also excite you. It was more our end persona. So if Barry did automotive and I did church, it may not mesh as easily, because it would be different pieces that I would need. Just because Barry mentioned Barbara is the reason why that came to mind. So in the chat, or, like Barry said, with this group, with any group, just if there's somebody that you talk with that you're like, wow, they are asking the same questions I am, then that is a person that could possibly move you forward.
Yeah, for sure. And you can, like we said, we did it, we kind of went all in, right? We were talking every day. And I can't remember why we decided to do it every day, except when we did it every day except Friday. And then we started doing it every day except Wednesday. And I don't know why we did that. I can't remember. It just worked, right? But I had a accountability partner before, and Laura said she also had one, where I just met once a week with her. And it worked, but it didn't always work, right? So that's where I moved on. Okay. So you got to test the waters, but it's made a huge difference just being able to collaborate, even if it's somebody that you can bring, hey, I'm working on this. Can you look at it? Anybody can look at a proposal. I don't care what industry they're in. They can look at it and go, that doesn't make any sense to me. And sometimes it's even better to have somebody look at a proposal you're going to put out for a website that isn't in your industry, because then they can read it and go, all this technical crap makes my eyes roll back. I don't care about that, right? So, that's where we've done a lot of that, where our proposals have gotten thinned out too, where we've just taken stuff out.
Yeah, awesome. And being honest, is it fun to call bullshit on someone if you have to?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Is it? I can tell you, I got major called out today. And the thing is I push back a little bit on that one, but it's fun, but it's not. You don't do it to have fun. It's like, wait a minute, no, because okay, here's a perfect example, and I don't know if this is bullshit, but I had a client I've had for years. Okay, they have two different businesses. I have one, they're in Marketing Maximizer Limited. We did their website a couple years ago. Now they need more marketing. They have another business that they're taking over from their dad that's similar but different. I've had their website for years too. And I did a proposal for them. It was Marketing Maximizer Pro for 6 months. It was like 15 grand, right? But they told me in January, well, we're talking to this other agency. I said, well, give me an opportunity to do a proposal. I did the proposal. They came back to me and said, no, we're going to go with them because they can do all this, and this. I could have done it too, but they didn't ever ask me. But anyways, what is it? A week and a half. And Laura said to me, she goes, but that's not your niche. So this is a legacy client that I shouldn't be worried about. And I was like, damn, if I lose this will suck. And she brought me around and said, look, you're focused on Motorhead Digital. You're focused on this. Don't worry about that. If it comes back, it comes back. That's fine. Guess what? It came back because the big agency basically said, we don't have time to get this done in the time you need it done. And what was nice about that is I had a different attitude when I talked to them too. I said, okay, that's awesome. Let me know if you need anything, and then they ended up coming back and now we're scrambling, but I got the project. So I don't know if that's calling bullshit or just bringing you around to reality and keeping you on this, straight thinking.
And there is a balance. Barry does know when I've had too much, because like I said, we're on a working farm. So there's going to be nights that I'm out kidding or calving and, I'm in limited sleep and I cannot be pushed. And then there's going to be other days that he's willing to say, is this done? So he can read me well enough to know that, okay, life took over. And so my agency stuff had to step aside and vice versa. So, we do call each other out as to if we are taken off our primary focus. And so that's the reason why I asked Barry is it worth losing our energy over something that's not even in our niche? My main goal is to simplify. So he's very good about reminding me too, not to say yes to everything that comes in. It now has to have value for what I want to do.
And that goes with team members too, right? We have team members that we've struggled with or vendors we brought in, and we have to remind each other they work for us. Okay. And there's certain things that we've run into issues. And I said, look, don't, try this, or whatever, or vice versa. That works really well. It's helped out a lot. Anything else, Adam?
Yeah, so more on the accountability side, like I know some people, like I've read about, like there actually being some sort of penalty if you don't sort of achieve what you're going for, and the other person, like do you feel that there's a need to have some penalties to keep you on track, or just being accountable to each other is enough?
I would owe Barry so much if that was the case. I just ship him Buckeyes from Ohio to, alleviate some of the
Yes, they are yummy. I'm almost out. No, I think that's where
peanut butter covered chocolates. If anybody wants to know what Buckeyes are, they're very delicious.
Um, hey, Andy, thanks for joining us. Adam, I think I'll get that deck to you. I'll save it as a PDF. There are some links at the end. The big one is listen to the podcast of Brent Weaver and check out that one article by Benjamin Hardy. What was interesting, we had a revelation today. This article about Benjamin Hardy I found, and we realized, holy crap, we're already doing that. When we were setting up to show this, it's called a show and tell, pretty much the same slide deck, an older version of it. We realized today that Benjamin Hardy's the same guy that helped Dan Sullivan write a book called Who Not How, okay, that we're both reading currently and just absolutely love. And it was just like, oh my God, no wonder. We didn't know it was the same thing, but the guy article is on Medium. So it's pretty interesting. So if you want a book to read, go get Who Not How. It is insanely, I got more highlighted notes in the intro than I've ever put in a book in my life.
Okay. Yep.
So no, we don't, the reason I went that way is, Benjamin Hardy noted in the thing that accountability becomes to be a drag after a while because you're like, I just can't get this done. Or I just don't want to do it, but I'm going to get penalized or I'm going to get smacked down because I didn't get my thing done. Right. Yeah. He talks a lot about that in the article. So we just say, hey, what can we help with? How can we help you get that done? Or should you really be working on that? Now, that's really where we're going with the who, not how now is why are you doing that? Yes. Shouldn't that be done by Natasha or Kathy or whatever, right? And so we're growing our team, our virtual team that way, and then looking at, getting ourselves out of certain seats. But Laura and I also had a 1 year, a 3 year, and a 5 year plan. The 5 year plan's a 4 year plan now. So we're also working on that. Excuse me.
So just for what you were showing at the beginning of this, Adam, that is very exciting to us. Just on, your forethought of, hey, wait a minute, we need something. I'm sure everybody else is very excited about that as well. Because at one point I would like to have time back on my hands and be able to know that things are being handled well. No, I hope not to ever need to use the emergency contact, but it is nice to know that, because that did used to keep me up at night, wondering, okay, what if something happens, and backing up all the sites, et cetera. So,
yeah, even if at the minimum, with this whole thing that they're building, I've always I don't worry about it anymore. Laura pretty much knows a lot of my customers. We both know where to go to see, okay, here's where, we have used all these different tools, right? We both have a couple other platforms that we have stuff on based on the need of the customer, but we know where those are. And Laura, what'd Sam say? Would you say Sam would say if something happened? Screw it, I don't care, right? Because he doesn't want to have to. But at the end of the day, we don't want our spouses have to deal with this. Okay, because they just don't get it. My wife doesn't know what I do every day, and she doesn't care. She just knows that there's a paycheck, right? And also we want our customers, we care for our customers, and we want them to be taken care of. So that's the two things that we're concerned about. So we feel way better now than we did 3 years ago.
Yeah,
thanks, Donna.
Thanks.
And Barry, you're just talking about the tools you use. That was one of my questions. Do you find that there's one or two major tools that help this process happen, or just a lot of disparate tools?
I think one of the big things that really made a huge difference is when we went to Google G Suites and created our shared drive. Okay. That saved, that was a lot easier than trying to ask for access or whatever. Or, hey, I put this doc in, here's a link to it. But we also decided to use Teamwork. And what else do we share, Laura? There's a couple other things. besides platforms, obviously.
I know regarding accountability, there was a few things like chains and different things but we walked away from all those. We didn't need one more thing to fill out a day. So the ones that Barry mentioned, of course, are business tools that make everything else more solid versus an accountability tool that's out there. We just did not want to bring another one of those into our daily must-haves.
Yeah.
One thing that happened in 2019, Laura sent me a book. It's called Profit First. And we had talked about it, but I was like, nah, I don't know, whatever. My wife's not going to do that. And a book showed up in the mail, and I read the beginning of it, and I gave it to my wife and said, I want to do this. Please read this. Because she manages my books and takes care of my books and stuff. And that's been huge for me to implement Profit First. And I wouldn't have done it without Laura saying, hey, you need to do this.
Okay.
So, yeah. I also got a bookkeeper because of Laura. I says, I need a bookkeeper.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, we do spend each other's money without thinking we're spending each other's money.
Yeah, don't say absumo to me.
Yeah. It's too easy to spend there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was awesome, guys. I think like the surprising takeaway for me was when I was thinking about this meeting and the benefits of a success partner, I was just thinking of the things you'd get out of that. But then you mentioned the overlapping of resources and the sharing of teams and that. And that's something that hadn't occurred to me, that could be a huge cost saver. Like you're basically cutting costs in half and the speed of development. So that's a really good point to look at, I think.
Yeah. And, Laura and I both started out with different developers. She's now using my developer. She has two different people out there that I have access to if I want to, right? And so that's helped out a lot. But the shared drives is huge because we shared team members as well. Laura can say, hey, that doc that Barry's working on? Yeah, can you do this with it? And she doesn't have to ask me. She knows that she can just grab that and go.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're getting some drop-offs now. So if anyone has any last questions, jump on the mic or in chat. I did, if anyone's hanging around, I did want to just discuss something off recording regarding treatable pricing and whatnot. So if you want to hang around, we'll talk about that. But yeah, thanks very much, Laura and Bay. That was really interesting and insightful. So yeah, we'll get on to implementing all that.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for inviting us and having us. And like
Yes.
Laura said, reach out if you have any questions.